Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, D-Palm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR Network at, you guessed it, the MTR Network on Twitter. You found us, don't lose us. Make sure you subscribe in the iTunes Store. Subscribe anywhere podcasts are given away for absolutely free. It's the best way you can help us is saying, hey, I want to make sure I don't miss any content. I know what you're thinking. Hey, D-Palm, I subscribe to the MTR feed. I get all the MTR goodness I could ever ask for. But if you enjoy our particular brand of takes on sports, I got to implore you to also subscribe to the UD Pod feed. That way, when you get mini episodes like our quick snaps, like what we're doing in the offseason, like some of the video stuff that's coming up, the audio will be available just on this feed. So make sure you don't miss any of the content we're putting out by subscribing to specific feeds. If Super Tuesday's your bag, subscribe to that specific feed. All the individual feeds are the best way to keep track of everything that we do on all of them. You found us, don't lose us, subscribe, like I said. Leave that 5-star review. A 5-star review is your way of telling us and telling anyone who might want to invest in us that people are actually listening outside of my parents and my wife. Good day to you both. To all three of you, I should say. And when you leave a 5-star review, you can say whatever you want to say. I'll read it on the air. If we're not a 5-star review for you yet, don't leave a 4-star. Trust me, it's not worth it. Do me a favor. Email me at udpodcast@gmail.com and let me know how we get to that 5-star. I want to earn the coveted 5th star. Let me know how I get there. If I'm 3 stars, don't even email me. We're clearly too far away. But if we're 4 stars, let me know how I can adjust and get that 5th star in the books. We're recording in a very different day today because, once again, I have fought technology and technology won. But undaunted, I'm back. And I'm not just back. I've got my guest back again because she was good enough to want to run it back with me again. Ashanti, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm very honest about my fight with the machines here on the podcast, and it's nice to have someone who can understand my plight.
Yeah, well, it sucks, but you got to do what you got to do. You're a professional, and I'm attempting to be professional with you.
I'll accept that. I will take the professional tag. Hey, will you tell everyone where they can find you on Twitter before we even get further into all the things that you do here over at MTR?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at Not That Ashanti on Twitter. And you can also find me also on the MTR Network hosting Docu Drunks and Scarestalgia. And also, I told Latoya and LaShonda that you wanted to sit in on a documentary review, and we're still trying to figure out what we're doing next.
You let me find any doc but that Chris Brown doc. I think that's just a bridge too far for me. But any other doc, I'm down. I've got the whiskey. I've got the Netflix account. I'm ready. Let's do this. I was so excited when y'all launched that show. If only, like I said, I love documentaries, love drinking, but also it's probably the best named show on the network.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
I will also say, I think the next one we're going to do is the Khalif Browder miniseries.
I'm in. If you got room,
okay.
I'm in. If you've got room, let me know, please. I would love to be involved.
All right, cool.
Look at that. We're building networks within networks. Look at this.
It's a deal.
It is a deal. Well, the other show you host is one that doesn't really resonate as much with me because I'm not a scary guy. See, it's not that. I just don't like scary movies. Like, y'all seem to, enjoy being terrified. I don't seem to like that. It doesn't appeal to me.
Well, considering that you played football, which is like a terrifying experience every time you step on the field, I think I'm going to have to call BS.
Well, hold on. Okay, so what about, I know football experience is very foreign for you, but what about it for you do you think looks scary?
Oh, the fact that you have a 300-pound man running to take your neck off?
You know what? It wouldn't even stuff like that would scare me before I got on the field. You know what would scare me? Because I played offensive line, and we had all these plays and all these checks and all these. I would be running through my checks in my head and so nervous about screwing things up. No kidding. Until the first snap, I was terrified.
And the snap is when the ball gets hiked through the middle of the
the first
guy
time
in front of
the first time you hit that day, you're not going to be scared anymore. You're not going to be nervous. You get right back to what you've trained to do. But before that, you're going through all the things that can go wrong in your head.
Instead of envisioning everything that can go right?
You got to understand how football coaches coach. It's a lot of fear-based reinforcement.
Okay.
It's if you don't do this, I'm going to do this to you.
Oh, okay.
It's a whole
Mm-hmm.
bunch of that. I always say when I'm workplaces, people are like, I don't want to be too harsh. I'm like, I was cussed out by men much scarier than you for most of my life. I'll be fine. You can't actually hurt me. It's fine. We had a coach once tell one of his players that uh, he said, I'm going to go back to Columbia and have him pull your scholarship. That's how mad the coach. It wasn't even that mad. It was just something during practice. But we had an upperclassman come around and tell him it's okay. There's no athletic scholarships here. He can't actually take your money.
Wow.
Like people, they're out there like football coaches. Well, I will have a podcast on this, but their design was to mentally break you. It was to make you either upset. I don't know what the actual like theory behind it is, but it's like I guess break them down so you can rebuild them. But very little rebuilding actually occurred in my eyes. I just saw a lot of people get cussed out, but maybe that's a product of playing a position no one cares about.
Right. So what position did you play?
I played left guard, so the guy who snaps the ball, I was right to his left, and the only time you hear my name or number is if I screwed up. It was like holding 66 Palmer or offsides 66 Palmer. Like you never heard great block 66 Palmer. It just doesn't happen.
Oh,
And the
that
worst part
sucks.
and the worst part was if you screwed up on during the game, you knew it was all on film, so you're gonna have to relive that screw up the next day in front of everyone and get yelled at in front of everyone.
Oh yeah, I saw scenes like that in Hard
Oh,
Knocks.
you I keep forgetting you're a heavy hard knockser. Hard knocks and fantasy are kind of what brought you to football. But I got to be honest, the story that you told me yesterday sounds like there's some football in your blood because I don't want to say you laid someone out over a bouquet at a wedding, but
I
you laid someone out over a
mean,
bouquet at a wedding, right?
yeah, I might have run through a motherfucker's face. And I was like joking at first. It wasn't really serious. And then I
It
just
never
kind of,
starts serious.
yeah, I just did a cute little ballerina jump and got the thing in my hands. And so did the other woman. And she like kind of snatched it from me, knowing good and hell well it was mine. And
See,
so I felt like totally gassed by having gotten that first bouquet because I was ready for your wedding. I was
well,
so ready for the bouquet toss.
so at other weddings, Susan's been like you, kind of like all elbows and like a little more into it than you probably should be. And I've seen her. I wouldn't say she laid anyone out. She definitely shook. She's shaken people off before. Like
Mm,
like you've seen her. She's tall. Like she's got the range. Like if people will try to grab near her, and it's like it never happened. But she didn't want to do the toss at our wedding, and I think that was what you were there for.
I mean, yeah. And when you told me that you kind of decided not to do that for, sexism purposes or well, pro woman
Yeah,
purposes,
there was legitimate positive reasons
there was
behind it.
some feminist theory underpinning that decision of yours, in which case I was annoyed enough to leave.
It's true, but like we couldn't have you out here fighting people. Like I'm sorry, like it was
Well,
definitely feminist
I don't,
underpinnings, but
it wasn't there. I wouldn't, be fighting. I mean, if I don't get the thing, I don't get the thing.
I don't
But
believe
it's
that.
the
I don't believe that
attempt
for 1 second.
that is fun.
I don't believe that for one hot second. Well, let's get started going through the week in sports. Kind of talking about how we got to where we are. The first story is a story that we didn't cover yesterday, but it's popped up all over social media. It's all over the internet. This kid, I don't know where he's from, but like, so for those who don't know, there's a young man whose name escapes me right now. It doesn't really matter actually, and he gets
Keaton.
bullied. Was it? Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it doesn't exactly. It doesn't matter. He got bullied at school, and his mom put up a video saying, they shouldn't be bullying my son. And just like everything happens on social media, people came out in droves. Chris Evans is invited to the Avengers premiere. Chris, I get bullied all the fucking time. Like, anyway. Athletes are like, LeBron James is recording like specialty messages for this kid, and people these are GoFundMe, which I don't understand because unless the $50K you raise is gonna stop bullying or like pay off the bullies, he's just gonna get beat up in better shoes. So initially, I was a little suspicious of this in the first place. When did you come across this whole story before it kind of unraveled?
This evening when I got off of work.
Oh, so you got to see that's good. You got to see it from the inside. You got to see it from the outside in, like watching, because it's been a cycle. It's been people invariably coming to the aid of this bullied kid. He gets $58,000 raised in GoFundMe, but then some sleuthing happens, and his mom is like, she's a racist.
Apparently, it was $28,000 that they got.
Oh no, it's at 50. So, quick update to the end of the story. It's currently GoFundMe page has currently been paused by GoFundMe, but it's at $58,000.
Oh dear.
Right, but his mom, like, social media will out you if you have to be outed, and she's been outed. She got pictures of this kid and her other kids waving Confederate flags, calling kneelers certain other words that may phonetically resemble kneelers, but we know clearly isn't kneelers. It's a stand-in for kneelers for a lot of these folks. You got the reports now is that this kid was getting bullied because he was calling black kids nigger, and they got sick and tired of it and threw hands. Now my question begins. Messiness, right? Like, this is just straight up, like, I know it's a sports show and this is technically sports. Like, this is some messy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a LeBron James, if you're out here recording these messages for him, how do you reconcile? Like, is this something like just growing cynicism where a story comes out that's kind of universally like, oh, this is so sweet? Is it me being too cynical to say I told y'all so? Or is it just me kind of living in 2017?
No, it's kind of like I told y'all so, because I think in the age of 2017, you have to wait 48 hours so that all the shit can come out before you comment. You need to give it a couple of days.
Well, let's go.
So I'm guessing that people found out that the mama was a racist earlier today, like shortly after her initial tweet went viral, right?
Right. And Mama's stuff all came out with Confederate flags everywhere, and people started asking more questions. And then, like, someone from the community apparently said that this young man got beat up because he was calling people nigger in school. And let's just go best case scenario. Let's say it was a kid getting bullied with a weird mom who decides to share her child's pain on social media. Why the fuck would we hand them money in the first place?
Yeah.
And now let's go with the actual case scenario. The money's out there. It's been committed by people. I'd like to know if the money went up when they figured out she was racist. Like, did more white people get involved? I don't know. Anyway, I'm just curious about that data point. But now the $58,000. Should this go to the black kids he's calling nigger? Like, should those kids go to the Avengers? Like, what the fuck is happening here? Because now Chris Evans can't uninvite a child from the Avengers premiere, can he?
Yes, he can. I mean, fuck him.
Fair enough. There it is. Fuck him indeed. I can't debate that. Go ahead.
Just give everyone refunds.
Here's your money back. Like, wouldn't you be a little happy? Like, oh, this money I thought I was going to give to this kid who didn't deserve it, I don't have to give it anymore. It's kind of a win for everyone except for this kid, whose mom got outed as a racist, and like maybe he can fix his life. Like, I don't care one way or the other. There's one kid, one random kid. I hope that this makes him investigate like the way he was raised and gets better, but I seriously doubt it. I mean, that's just kind of my 32 years tell me I doubt it. I'm just saying.
It's already been, he's been born, so it's already there.
Damn. No hope at all.
Nope.
Because this is some very major like public shaming. Like this is some shit you don't just tweet through. Like, he's gonna have to reconcile some things after all of this.
Or at least the mama will.
That's another really good point. Let's go back now to Thursday night. And people say, oh, this podcast dropped on a Tuesday. How dare you go back to last Thursday night? For first and foremost, I say fuck you. Secondly, anytime the Falcons beat the Saints on national television, I'm going to talk about it. And I couldn't be happier. Matt Ryan threw 3 picks. The Falcons didn't look great offensively, but guess what? They found a way to win. And I've heard people say that this is a secondary rivalry. In my opinion, it's the best rivalry in football. Shout out to the Baltimore Ravens and the Steelers, who have the best football playing rivalry. But the most fun rivalry for me has got to be Atlanta versus New Orleans, if only because it is the blackest rivalry in all of sports.
Did the right time ever come down in an official name what to call that?
They never named it, but look, the clincher for me was not just what I know about these cities. It was not just everything, all the demographics. It's not just the Saints fans who moved here after Katrina, who I hate and wish would go home. Like, I wish you would all just leave. If you're in Atlanta and you're a Saints fan, you're listening to this, go home. Go home. We good. Get on up. No. Did you know the names of the two mayors of these cities?
Keisha and Latoya?
Latoya Cantrell was the mayor of New Orleans.
Do I get a prize for this?
You do get a prize for this because Atlanta's mayor is new. We just elected her last week after the runoff votes. Oh, and I know this is not a political podcast, but angry racist candidate Mary Norwood demanded a recount, and as opposed to winning by 700 votes, Keisha gonna win by about 2,200. Take your recount. Anyway.
Ooh.
I had to talk. We're gonna talk mayors. I got to stunt a little bit because Mary Norwood tried that shadow Trump bullshit. Woo! I don't want to get too far into it. The Atlanta Politics podcast. This is not, but I'm very glad to see her fall flat on her face. Anyway,
and losing team. at more double margin than she thought.
Exactly. Yo,
should have taken the 700. Should have taken the 700-point loss.
You'd have felt better before the recount. That's all we're gonna say about it. It's not the place people to mess with. But yeah, what as a strict as the biggest definition of outsider that there can possibly be. You don't even really like football. What's your take? Because I know that you've seen a lot of Saints hate out there, a lot of brown paper bag jokes. What's your take as an outside observer of this rivalry, of this hatred between these two cities?
I don't know really a thing about it, so it is all just kind of whatever to me. I don't really care. But I do
hate
want to.
New Orleans? Do you hate New Orleans?
No.
See.
I mean, I'd have to be way more invested in the sport of football than I am to really give a damn. So.
No, but see, for me, it's not even just football because I don't like the entire city of New Orleans. I think Bourbon Street should be shut down immediately.
Oh.
It's an open air drug market on United States soil. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's have you done New Orleans like as a grown up?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, ma'am. Look, I went for a bachelor party a couple years ago. Never again. I'm good. The food was great, but y'all all over the country now. Y'all have got restaurants in Atlanta. I can have New Orleans style seafood in Atlanta. Like, I don't need to go to New Orleans for that. And that's really all New Orleans had for me.
Mm-hmm.
And bad football. Exemplified again on Thursday night when all you bag-wearing Saints fans had to go reach for those bags. Saints play the Falcons again later this year, and I'm going to talk straight cash shit after that one too because the Falcons won again on their way to another wonderful playoff berth that'll probably end in pain for me because that's how my life works.
Oh.
It's not like you are in a mocking tone, which is fine. But
yeah, it is.
But you gotta understand, like, I've watched these same group of bums hurt me my entire life. My entire life. And I can't walk away.
Why can't you quit them?
I don't.
I mean, it's not like they're paying you to be a fan.
We all do illogical things. And the thing is, I'm a fan in the loosest sense of the term. Like, I support the Falcons. I don't buy jerseys. I don't go to the games, really. I'll go if I'm given a ticket. So shout out to anyone who wants to hit me up with a ticket at dpalm66 on Twitter. But I'm not going to go out and, like, seek out tickets. I watch them on TV. I guess that's ad revenue. But, like, I'm very much just, like, a concerned observer of the Falcons. And they still find a way to hurt me. Like, I can't imagine those guys who, like, build their entire identities around these teams. Like, that's too far for me.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot. Sometimes I think you can argue it's too much at times, particularly when you get stories like this. Like, this is a story that in any other industry wouldn't matter, but now we know that the guy running the NFL got an extension on his contract. Roger Goodell, who, I want to remind everyone, has no graduate degrees. People say, oh, he's a commissioner, must be a lawyer. Roger Goodell, not a lawyer. Not an MBA. He was an intern in the NFL front office and worked his way to commissioner.
Wait, so he's only worked ever for the NFL?
His entire job is to be the NFL stoolie, and somehow, some way, he found a way to piss off the most powerful owner in possibly sports, Jerry Jones. There were lots of kerfuffle we've talked about on this podcast ad nauseum, but it ended with basically Jerry Jones trying to hold up this contract from getting signed. Well, it was announced last Wednesday that NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell got a 5-year extension with the owners because the NFL is no longer tax exempt, which is a change that happened in the last year that no one seemed to notice. Goodell's salary is no longer public record. The last time in 2015 when it was public, he made $32 million that year. According to
Wait,
reports,
so the NFL is no longer a nonprofit organization?
They were nonprofit to avoid antitrust laws, but those laws have been loosened, so now they're no longer tax exempt, which they don't have to report anything publicly.
Wow. But they still get these publicly funded stadiums, though, right?
Oh, that's never going to stop. Because no, man. That's the golden goose. That's the biggest trick in the book. But it looks like this new contract for Goodell is going from $32 million a year to $40 million a year. The bonuses apparently are approved by owners. 85% of the compensation package is tied to bonuses, which are all tied to valuation increases in teams. Which you've got to realize that people say, "Oh, Goodell, everyone hates him. The players hate him. He's a draconian overlord. The owners hate him, say that they're not tough enough on the players." He has increased the average value of a team from when he took over by over 2.5 times. Teams are worth over $2.5 billion right now. He's made the owners more money in his tenure than they ever could have imagined. So, for all the bluster and all the hype out of Dallas, please believe me that as long as he keeps making the money, he's not going anywhere.
But this had to have hurt Jerry Jones' soul because he was really trying to get Goodell out the paint.
You're positing that Jerry Jones has a soul, first and foremost.
Oh.
I think it angered Goodell, it angered Jerry Jones in that cold place his soul used to be. But I think you're right. I think that as an uninterested observer, you've got to count this as a loss for Jerry Jones. And so much that the most powerful person in sports can have a loss. The Raiders are building their stadium in Las Vegas in this offseason, but who's handling all the concession duties? Jerry Jones' companies. That's the sneaky secret, is that he secretly owns more of the NFL than anyone wants to admit, but it looks like his power and influence among the rest of the owners hasn't stretched as long as his dollar has. And I think that, more than anything, is a bit of a learning experience for Mr. Jones.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he might ever try to become the NFL commissioner in future?
I'm pretty sure he's convinced he is. I think this was the first time he found out he wasn't. I think this has all been a little bit of a wake-up call for him. And as someone who does not like Jerry Jones, I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with the fact that somehow I ended up on Roger Goodell's side. He's been an asshole. And now we've got this situation where a bigger asshole's come in, so I have to be on the side of Roger Goodell. I'm glad this story's gone for now. I don't like having to muddy these waters. It doesn't feel right.
Right. Well, it's just Jerry Jones is kind of the biggest personality. And I guess the controversies over the past year have kind of made him the uber boogeyman. So, any person that kind of goes up against Jones is going to kind of be seen as a folk hero for a few minutes until everyone realizes that, F him. He still ain't shit.
Roger should not feel comfortable. Roger should feel very nervous about the fact that all his goodwill goes away the second Jerry Jones shuts the hell up. And that's going to come sooner than we all think. Something that kind of has plagued Roger Goodell and kind of reared its ugly head again last Thursday in the Saints-Falcons game is the topic of injuries, and specifically head injuries. We've all heard about the lawsuits from retired players. We've heard about the incidents on the field. We've seen the suspensions handed out. Mike Mitchell from the Steelers during the same game, after the same game where Ryan Shazier, who is now a week and a half later still in spinal trauma center in Pittsburgh, Mike Mitchell, the safety for the Steelers, said that, first of all, he made a bunch of comments about how it's a man's game and da-da-da, which are like archaic and rocky-headed and all the sort of mean things you say about football players. But he also touched on something interesting where defensive players are getting penalized and targeted and made into these boogeymen, but there's been a precipitous drop-off in quarterback plays where some of these passes are forcing receivers into positions where the only answer is to hit them in a very painful way. And I've heard it said before, I've seen people get fired for giving up touchdowns. I've never seen someone get fired for hitting too hard.
And so the guy with the spinal bruises,
yeah,
will he ever be able to play again?
They're talking about if he'll ever have a normal life again. I think playing is a couple months down.
Oh.
Even having that conversation. Yeah, and Shandy, I know you don't watch the sport, but it's one of those things that as I'm watching it now, as a grown up, as an adult, as someone who doesn't go out on Saturdays and hit people, it's crazier to me. I don't know if you saw this hit. Tom Savage, the quarterback for the Texans, who is a bad football player, got hit so hard it looked like, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not prescribing, I'm not saying what it was. It looked like he had seizures on the field.
Oh, God.
He then came out of the game and then went back in 3 plays later. And people say, oh, well, they've got these team doctors got to clear him. Hey, the team doctor is employed by, wait for it, the team, who has a concerted and very real fiscal interest in seeing their asset on the field of play. And by the way, in case you're a little put off by me saying asset, that's what these players are to the owners. Temporary assets to be used up and discarded. Drew Brees came out after the game on Thursday where they lost their best player. They lost Kimura, who has been carrying the Saints all year as they do this 98 Broncos cover band nonsense. Atlanta kid. Kimura gets hit in the head, can't play the rest of the game. The team falls to shambles. They get a bunch more injuries and they lose. Why are you asking these men who are injured enough on Sundays to then turn around and play a game 3 days later on Thursday nights, largely of which the quality of game isn't good? I remember spending the entirety of Saints Falcons like, man, what if these two teams were healthy and playing? That'd be a lot of fun. It's and I hate this term slippery slope, but it's a slope we've slid down. Because if you're going to say that Tom Savage can go back in, and you're going to say that Mike Mitchell has a point, and I'm complicit as well, because I was raised and brought up around football in a certain way, and things have changed, and things need to change, or we're going to see someone die on a football field, which hasn't happened in a very long time in a professional game. And we're getting closer and closer to it, and I don't know what's next after that.
Yeah, I remember this was last season. One of the players on the Seattle Seahawks got completely knocked out. Lockett, Ricardo Lockett. I will never forget that. Just my stomach just plummeted. That was such a hard clip to watch, and it was all over Twitter, so it was kind of hard to miss.
Hard to avoid, right.
But that is it's devastating. It is absolutely devastating. So
the big hits, and they've done the studies where they say each time a lineman hits another lineman, it's effectively the G-forces of a car crash. And that happens every play. Every single one. It's one of those things where I think the first episode of this whole podcast was called Safer Cigarette. Or there's no such thing as a safer cigarette, because this game is a cigarette. It is designed to do grievous damage to your body and mind. And I think until the CBA is up in 2020, will even these Thursday night games be on the table? Because you've got to understand also that the owners in the league and the players have seen revenue from this increased Thursday night game. They can tell you about ratings falling. They can tell you about diminishing returns as far as oversaturation with football. But the bottom line is people will pay for these games. Advertisers have and will pay for these games. When they had the lockout season, DirecTV told the NFL, we're going to pay you our contract even if there are no football. We're going to pay out the rate for having the football package available on DirecTV even if you don't have a product.
Mm.
There's nothing else in the world where you say, well, there is something, but I'm not going to do it here. It's not that podcast. That you can say, I'm going to give you nothing, give me your money. And they do it.
Well, do you think that most people would be in favor of getting rid of Thursday night games if they did like if there was only one Thursday played on Thanksgiving, have that be the
That's how
one
it used to be.
exception?
I think people, by and large, would be okay with it, but they would never spearhead the change because, again,
They're
by and
spoiled
large,
for choice now.
more than that, most people absorbing this product don't care about the individual humanity of the players.
Oh
It's
no,
evidenced
no, certainly
by,
not.
and it's evidenced by. We can just go to strictly to the anthem, the protests during the national anthem, quote unquote debate, where literally it's people who can think on one side and assholes on the other at this point. And it's interesting to me because if we can't say that these players, we care enough for these players to use their voices and not have things thrown at them, then there's no way they're going to say. People would rather say, "Where's my mediocre Thursday night game?" than say, "Oh, I get it. Those guys get beat the hell up on Sundays. Why would we make a play 3 days later?" That's crazy talk.
Speaking of, did you see the video of some fans throwing things at players?
Oh, at the Seahawks Jaguars game?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. For those of you guys who missed it, the Seahawks Jaguars, there was a bit of a melee, a kerfuffle, or whatever you want to call it, Donnybrook even. And a couple Seahawks players got tossed upon leaving the field in Jacksonville. Jacksonville fans, who, by the way, have gotten very full of themselves in their one season, like not even full season of being adequately good at football. Reel it the fuck in. Blake Bortles is your quarterback. Anyway, they start throwing things at these linemen and saying derogatory things from the stands. And the linemen were ready to go into the stands. My favorite part of that video is when they see the guys coming at them, the bravery from the stands ends very quickly.
Yeah, I saw one. I guess the security people was trying to hold one of the players back, and he was unsuccessful. I saw another security guy jump up and hop in the stands to try to prevent um, more fuckery from ensuing.
At a certain point, isn't that above your pay grade as a security guy? Like, your job is not to fight NFL players.
Yeah, funny enough, on Bomani Jones' show, they have a new segment talking about that time you broke up a fight.
I,
So,
I gotta ask, Ashanti, have you ever broken up a fight?
mm-mm.
It's because you're smart.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
Yeah,
And
that's not me. That's mm-mm.
I will save my story for now. But the point remains: do not break up fights. It's a zero-sum game. Nothing good can happen from you breaking up a fight. Anyone who's listening to this podcast saying, "Why not?" Just trust me.
Yeah, I hope
Like,
to whatever fans were throwing the trash and stuff will get banned for life or something.
no, they'll never be banned. They'll ban them for. They'll do like a big show of like this is unacceptable and they won't be sold, or maybe they'll take away season tickets. But effectively, you can't really ban someone from a stadium.
Oh, that's
Because they're not going to put up
disheartening.
like a picture. I would love that they would put up pictures at concourses, but there's too many ways in. They don't track these tickets until they go full electronic. You don't know who's got what ticket. It's tough to do. And so anytime you hear banning a fan, it's usually mostly lip service by the team to look good. But I would like to see Jacksonville at least say that. I think them saying they're banning the fan would at least maybe like be a good sign, like be a good step. See, now you've got me worked up for something that's not going to happen.
Oh, my bad.
Because they're never going to do it because they're a bunch of cowards. Um, let's go to the NBA, or at least NBA-ish. Lavar Ball. Polarizing figure among people who don't have people like that in their lives. Amongst people like that, us. LeVar Ball's mildly entertaining. He clearly loves his kids and does what he thinks is best. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention, first of all, good for you. Second of all, the middle ball son. Look, until they all get good, they all get names. I think that's fair.
Got low
Middle ball
ball.
son was playing at UCLA. He went to China, did some shoplifting, got put in Chinese jail. Him and I think 3 other players. Whose
No,
names you don't
they
know.
weren't detained and put in jail. They were questioned at the hotel.
It was my understanding that they were actually detained.
Oh, well, shut my mouth.
I mean, if they weren't, it gets even. It's even. It's even
I mean, I
weirder
think
if
they
they
were taken to
weren't.
the station, but from what I've read, I don't think that they were like locked up
Look,
behind
oh, that's
bars.
fine. Chinese police
Yeah,
station is far enough for
still,
me.
but yeah,
That's
scary
enough for
enough.
me.
Listen, lesson learned.
No, and thank you. I am good. Yeah. So it was Leangelo, the second ball. I know their name. I'm learning their names. Um, did some shoplifting, got detained, was released by pressure. If you ask certain people, it was Donald Trump who helped out, which isn't true, because UCLA didn't send kids over there to play basketball because they love China that much. They're doing it so they
It
can get some of that Chinese money and some of the Chinese brains over in their school.
it
Yale's
was
going next year.
most likely diplomats at the U.S. Embassy.
Exactly. The same reason Yale's going next year, so that they can get a little bit piece of all the available fiscal opportunities in China.
Did you
Is that
see that
fair?
Dennis Rodman is trying to do a U.S. versus North Korea basketball game?
Dennis Rodman is trying to do a lot of things.
Least of which is opening up a Google page to type up that war that Honduras and El Salvador had just over a freaking soccer match.
Look,
They had a
hey,
whole ass war over a game.
soccer's real. Like, don't, like, that's, and that's something I joked about in this podcast earlier is that, like, yeah, sports are taken very seriously here, but who would have thought that the hippies, the leftists, would get football in the war? Like,
Mm.
people, like, you got these hillbillies, like, breaking the televisions because of anthem protests. I'm like, who would thought the left was going to get football? I thought we'd get basketball clearly, but football was a real win that I didn't expect.
Yeah, no one did.
No one did. But to continue on, LaMelo Ball, UCLA suspends the kids from the basketball team. Underreported was that they actually took away the kids' meal plans too, which was really messed up. Lavar decides to pull
So
Angelo
wasn't
out
that
of.
effectively like kicking them off the team if that money was like linked to your sports scholarship?
Well, I think that's probably like the terms of their suspension is probably like suspension of all. I honestly have no idea. That's something that be handled internally at UCLA. But I think you're right. Like it's for me, it's a weird act to take, especially since there was really. I think, however length of time it was in a Chinese police station, you've learned your lesson. At a certain point, it becomes proving some bullshit law and order thing to people who might be paying attention, right?
Right.
And so LeVar decides he's had enough of this shit and pulls Angelo out of UCLA.
As you do.
As as you do. For those of you who are having trouble keeping track of the Ball children, nope, we've got you. Lonzo Ball is the Lakers guard who's currently starting for Los Angeles Premier Team. He's doing fine for a rookie. He can't shoot for shit, but he'll be fine. He'll be fine. LiAngelo, like we'll get back to LiAngelo. LiAngelo's the one who got shoplifted. He's the other
He's
ball.
very much the Malcolm in the middle.
He's the ball in the middle. And LaMelo is the 16-year-old who's scoring 90 in high school games. Like LaMelo has a legitimate shot to be something great. So UCLA, Steve Alford, the coach there, decided, hey, if I hitch my wagon to these ball kids, I'll at least have a shot. The two good ones, the middle one will take up some space on my roster. He brings in LiAngelo. LiAngelo withdraws. LaMelo decides not to go. Signs as an agent so he can't play college basketball. Lonzo's in the NBA. Steve Alford, for the record, just lost his ability to be competitive in the Pac-12. He may have just cost himself his job by suspending this ball kid. Just put it all on the table. This may have been Steve Alford's final act as head coach effectively, because right now he's on the 3-year count until LaMelo doesn't show up on campus. Then he's in trouble. Then he's in very real trouble. But it looks like, as late reporting is breaking, LiAngelo and LaMelo will be signing with a Lithuanian overseas team. Now,
They didn't
I
even know
can't
where
say it without
Lithuania
laughing.
was.
I can't say it without laughing.
Well, go ahead and laugh. Get
Like
those
what?
keys in, because I swear they probably did not know where Lithuania was
They
until it
can't
was
find
brought
it.
up.
But like, you got for the whole expanse of this LaVar Ball experience, I've been very much like laughing at LaVar. A lot of people take him seriously, kind of just absorbing it, but thinking at the core of it, he was doing what was right for his kids, or at least doing what he thought was right for his kids. pulling a child out of high school to go play professional basketball when he's the size LaMelo is against grown-ass men does not seem to be good fathering.
Yeah, and someone reported that they had like a family discussion. I was like, that doesn't sound like a decision that was made in a Democratic household at all.
There's no,
Mm-mm.
LaVar Ball doesn't know the meaning of the word Democratic. And that's not a shot at LaVar for being stupid. That's a shot at him being a dictator. Like, there's no way that a Ball family discussion didn't involve LaVar yelling at the entire family about what we gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's that. If you ever heard that phrase in your life, that guy in your life who says that seriously, that's LaVar Ball. That's who he is. And he's sending one very talented child and one not so talented child.
But both very immature.
Very immature, but he's also sending them to go play with, like, think about the NBA journeyman who shows up as a 29-year-old rookie and been playing 5 years overseas. The guy who just decided, as Bomani Jones says, he can't go back to wherever he's from. The guy who'll do anything to make a roster. That's the guy who these Ball kids, that's whose seat they're coming for on that bench. What are the odds we get a story of of a Ball getting knocked out by a teammate in the next 2 years?
Probably high. I don't know any more about baseball than I do about, not baseball, basketball. All the balls, they all kind of look alike.
Baseball, basketball, football, Alonzo, LaMelo, LiAngelo, it's all very confusing.
It's all the sports balls.
All the sports balls. There you go. Well, I for one am excited to see. Not excited. I'm a little. How do you feel about this? Because like we talked yesterday, it's kind of I think LaVar is wrong here in that he's like doing the wrong thing with his kids. But I can't get mad at someone who is able to game this system the way that LaVar has. You look at what's happening in Louisville right now, where a great story broke on ESPN Sunday morning, outlining the relationship between Adidas and Louisville. One that's being investigated right now by the FBI. One that cost the head coach of Louisville, Rick Pitino, and the AD, Jurek, their jobs, and Tom Jurek, and the story of how they turned in 20 years a school that did not matter, a school that had a $12 million overall athletic department budget, into one that was paying the AD over $5.5 million a year.
What does AD stand for?
Athletic director. Basically, he's the head administrator on all these sports teams. And at Louisville, that generally means basketball, because Louisville was able to finagle their way into this deal with Adidas, and Adidas was able to just continue investing. And when people say, "Oh, this school has a deal with this company," you got to realize what that means. That means that this company's invested money, maybe equipment, saying that we're expecting greatness out of you. We're not giving you this money and these shoes out of the goodness of our heart. We're doing it so that when you make the biggest stages possible, our brand is associated with them. And as the Adidas money and Louisville's success grew side by side, the reason the FBI is involved is because Louisville apparently was using the Adidas as a slush fund to pay players to come to Louisville. And when you hear things like this, and you hear about the ridiculous sums of money being thrown around to coaches and ADs and everyone really but the players, I can only get so mad at LaVar Ball for looking at the system and saying, I want my children to have no part of that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to, exploit your kids, you might as well be the one in control of it.
100%. Because like I said with professional sports, just like in professional sports, these kids are temporary assets. There's a reason why a lot of these teams don't put names in the backs of the jerseys, because the backs don't matter. We can sell you a red number 3 jersey in the Georgia Pro Shop, but we can't tell you it's a Todd Gurley jersey. And heaven forbid that kid get a piece of the money he earned. And then you get schools who are a bit smarter than Louisville, who want to hide their money better than just giving themselves bonuses. They do what I jokingly call gold plate the toilets. They'll say, oh, we threw a barber. Oh, Georgia's got a DJ in their locker room now. Here's an Xbox. Stay here forever. All that is a game, just like Google does. They say, oh, you can walk your dog here. We got sleep pods. Why would you ever leave? If you never leave, our eyes can never not be on you.
Yeah, well, might as well keep you chained to the institution that is paying for everything. That's
But
really
wouldn't it be
insidious,
easier just to
though.
pay the kids? Like,
It's
if you as a kid, would you like to have access to an Xbox or a check every week?
a check.
Right? And people want to say, oh, they pay the kids in education. We're not going to talk into the
How
obvious
about you
educational disparities.
know what? I bet you kids would like try a little more in their classes if you gave them a check on top of that. You'd
Oh,
see
of course they
some.
would. But that's the craziest part about it, because if you're a TA or if you are working in a lab, if you're using the skills that brought you to the school to enrich the school, they'll give you a check for it. But if your skills happen to be throwing a football, student athlete.
Yeah, that's a
It's a
weird
weird
kind of
double,
devaluation.
right? And do you know where the term student athlete came from?
Uh-uh.
In the late 40s, at Colorado, a tight end died on the field.
Uh,
He died playing football. So his widow said, "Hey, I'm suing the school for financial aid. They should give me some money for my husband's death." They said, "Why?" He said, "Because he died as an agent of the school." The NCAA and the school invented the term student athlete to avoid paying a widow for her dead husband.
wow.
It's so messy. Like, you go back far enough on anything, really, it gets messy. But this is it's unavoidable and inescapable, and it does not coincide with the world we live in now. College sports make billions of dollars,
Yeah, and the
and
kids make nothing.
the business model is predicated on the kids making nothing. But then we have to act outraged when Louisville says, "Hey, let's find a way to entice a kid to come to our school." If you could offer them checks beforehand and above board, maybe we could regulate it. Maybe you wouldn't have the FBI investigating college fucking athletics, doing some real work, maybe.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know,
you
stopping
think.
all the white supremacists in the FBI. Anyway,
Wow.
but it's crazy, right? Like, it's such a simple answer. Find a way to pay the players. People say, "Oh, that's complicated."
No,
These
it's not.
teams, well, even if it was, these teams play in areas surrounded by really smart people who, I don't know, could probably figure that out for you.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of think until like some people can really look at how much, especially at a state school, how much the head coach makes, and the fact that he's likely the person that has the biggest salary out of the state. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even beyond like the, salary of a governor of a state.
Oh,
He
far
makes
outstripping the governor.
millions upon millions, and you can't even rationalize why paying him so much money and then paying the students nothing in comparison is wrong.
We're going to move off this because this is a soapbox I'm very familiar with, but I do want to get a quote from this ESPN article about Louisville. This is from Dr. Mark Lynn. He's an optometry trained owner whose name is on the soccer complex at Louisville. He said, "I can give $5 million to stem cell research, and it's going to help stem cell research. But if I give $5 million to a soccer stadium, it's going to help everything because it brings the school visibility."
Wow. Mm.
The AD treated the athletic budget, and he treated the boosters. He convinced them that this wasn't boosting a department, it was investing in the future. And that's how he was able to build, in 20 years, $280 million in facilities for a school that's literally a commuter school near Kentucky, near UK. UK is the big state school. Louisville's always been the smaller school, but they got the Papa John's money. They got everything Gurrick did. They got the ridiculous stadium deal where they own everything that happens in downtown Louisville. And that's how you've got the optometrist whose name's on the soccer stadium putting it. "I'd rather help, quote unquote, everything than give $5 million to stem cell research."
That's batshit insane.
That's you can tell he earnestly believes that shit. And that's the craziest thing about it.
Wow. And people can watch this with a clean conscience.
And there you go. It's been harder for, like, anyone who knows me knows I got my start podcasting doing a Georgia college football podcast. And I did it for 2.5 years, and I just, at a certain point, I was like, I can't cover college football exclusively anymore. I can talk about it, but I can't dive into it because there's so many contradictions. I only watch Georgia games now because anytime I watch a college football game and I watch a kid get hurt, people are like, "Oh, I hope he's okay." All that goes through my mind is his insurance stops in 3 years no matter what.
Oh, so yeah, how does that work? So when you're in a collegiate football program, how do
Okay.
they handle health insurance?
It's done through the school. It's through the program. We have to take a physical every year, and you are covered. I think it's two. It used to be two. When I was there, it was two. I think it's three now. For 3 years after graduation, but any chronic injuries were not covered under anything going forward. So when I played college football, I broke a finger. I tore some ligaments. And any person who covers me next, those are pre-existing conditions. Although they came in the service of increasing the visibility of my school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a broken person now.
Wow.
I mean, yeah,
That's
that's basically
dark as
not
fuck.
great. It's not great. I'm not gonna lie. But that's
But
and you saw things like
people bestow a lot of heroism on
yeah,
players for
for a
that.
while, for a while. It's all temporary, and that's crazy because last year Northwestern came out with their attempts to unionize college football players and to get a college football bill of rights put into the NCAA, and then somebody laughed them off. But you read the Bill of Rights and you hear people say these entitled rats, they get school for free, and you look at the things they're asking for, and you're like, wait, those are
But
like basic.
yeah, in comparison to the school is free, do you see the type of injuries that we are likely to get, and then the
Injuries likely
likely
to get, and money brought in. Like I
mhm,
said,
and
Mark
the
Lynn gave
likelihood of you
$5
going
million
pro.
to a soccer stadium.
Hmm. Yeah,
That
the
lined up to invest
NAAC,
in good football teams.
the NCAA need to go ahead and just make collegiate sports semi-pro
Yep.
and just pay the kids.
There you go, guys. I didn't have to say it this time. She said it. I think it's more effective because she's got a better voice than me. Anyway,
Really,
let's
because
move on
I
to.
hate the sound of my voice.
I don't listen to my own podcasts.
Oh,
If I'm on
okay.
the show, I'll listen to edit and then I don't listen to it again.
Oh, there you go.
I'm really compulsive. That's creepy. Um, this is my favorite story of the weekend. Kobe Bryant is coaching basketball, and for all of us who remember Kobe Bryant as this bloodthirsty competitor who would do anything to win, he's coaching his 11-year-old daughter's rec league team.
He's about to coach up some Amazons.
Yo, these
Watch
kids are
all
gonna
those
get great.
girls gonna
He
grow
says
up.
they're coaching. He's coaching them in the triangle, which is the offense he ran in LA. Which I know you're not as indoctrinated as I am. I want to tell you right now, it's one of the most boring offenses of all goddamn time.
Okay, what's the triangle?
It's too boring to get into on a podcast. Just know it involves a lot of ball move. You're asking 11-year-olds to do a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And if these kids can catch on, he may build a great rec league team that takes over the world. That may happen. More than likely, these bougie Beverly Hills parents are getting pretty upset with the way Coach Bryant keeps running their kids. You know
Listen,
what? The more I talk about it, the more
when
okay
those
I am
stories
with this.
start coming out, I need you to book me on the show just so we can discuss them.
We'll have an hour of Kobe gripes. Like if anyone's listening by chance and like well off and want to send me a check or send us the emails from the listserv involving this team, let us know, please. I'll happily read them on the air and mock them with Ashanti. It'll be great. That right there is what we call content, kids. Let's talk about college football for a second. Heisman winner happened over the weekend. Baker Mayfield, a bunch of yards, a bunch of touchdowns, not many picks. Plays for Oklahoma. First walk-on in a very long time to win the award. You don't know anything about college football. What was your initial impression of Baker Mayfield?
Oh, I thought he was going to be like a whites only water fountain type of guy with two last names as a first name. So I did not know any of his history. I just knew he did like an obscene gesture and people were kind of freaking out. But yeah, congratulations to him and his trophy. So
Baker Mayfield's been a lot of fun this year, starting quarterback for Oklahoma. I gotta go. I'm gonna link these in the show notes, but there's a video of him. So they asked him to do a video for the women's gymnastics team, to do like a hype video for them. And normally you'd see a guy come out there in his football shit and you just come out and support the women's gymnastics team this Friday or whatever. He put on a leotard. He did a floor routine, like a joking floor routine, and then blew dust, and then blew like the talcum powder into the camera.
oh my god, I need to find this.
He's one of those dudes who just seems to like love to be a college football player. I'm not sure how he translates to the NFL, but I've enjoyed watching him. I'm really going to enjoy on January 1st, 2018, when the Georgia Bulldogs show him how real college football is played.
All right.
Willie Taggart is back coaching at FSU, his alma mater. First black head coach in FSU's history, only their third coach in total history. So hey, it kind of it works out well for him. This is going to be interesting, I think, because even with like little things I know about Tallahassee.
Oh my God! I
what?
Just found it, but I can't press play. No, I'm looking at the stills of the screenshots, and
I'm telling you, Baker went in, dude. I like Baker Mayfield as a person, as a football player. I think he's going to get demolished by my team, but he's very entertaining.
What the hell is a Sooner?
Okay,
that's so
I don't know.
Weird.
It's some Oklahoma thing. Like Oklahoma, you got to remember, is like a depressed region because they were like the Dust Bowl. Like that was the depression of depressions. So
they were hoping death would come sooner or something. That
was not me. I want everyone, all Oklahoma fans, listen to that. Like I have a much deeper voice in her. That was not me who said that. Let's get back to Willie Taggart, going back to FSU. With little I know about Tallahassee, I think that Tallahassee will be fine with the black head coach. It's a surrounding county. It's around the rest of Florida I'm a little concerned about. Because we all see this. Go ahead.
Say that last part again.
We all see the stories about kind of how Florida gets down. And anytime you're outside Tallahassee, like any direction in 10 miles,
it's Florida all the time.
That is the accurate representation of Florida. Do you think that a black head coach can cut it down there? Because in my opinion, you got to win now.
I don't know.
Winning solves a lot of things. I think it's going to be tough for them to get the wins just because the landscape of Florida's changed. But good for Willie Taggart. He left the Oregon job, which was never that good of a job. Oregon job's only good because of that Phil Knight Nike money. Like, that's the only reason anyone would ever go to Oregon.
And Chip Kelly was there.
But that's what Chip Kelly did. He leaned on Phil Knight and that Nike money. He's like, let's go get some athletes. He got a bunch of kids from L.A., convinced him to go live in Eugene, Oregon, which, before they legalized marijuana, I don't know how the recruiting trips went, but they must have worked. But yeah, Willie Taggart's at FSU. Jerry Pruitt got a big deal at Tennessee, and everything happened at Louisville. Still can't pay the players. It is.
I will say this: I cannot stand Tennessee on the strength of the fact that I had to play Rocky Top all 4 years of high school marching band. So
I've always. Where are you from? I didn't know this.
I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
You're from Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I used to work at a kids camp. I was a camp counselor, and once a session was trip day, and trip day would take us to Rock City. So I would go to Rock City 4 times a summer. But by the end of my 10 years as camp counselor, I convinced my kids in my cabin that we were going for the Rock City speed run. And so I can get you through the aquarium, the Chattanooga Choo Choo, and Rock City in like an hour 15. With like 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Excuse me, not the Chattanooga Choo Choo, I apologize. The Incline Railway. I'd hate to mix up Chattanooga landmarks. The Incline Railway.
Yeah, at first I was like, do you mean like Ruby Falls? But
no, Ruby Falls is a money pit. Never go to Ruby Falls. There's nothing there. It's a tiny trickle of water and a bunch of red lights. We went when I was like 13. My parents took us. And yeah, that shit was irritating.
Have you ever been to Lake Winnipesaukee?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, it's like the most rickety freaking amusement park ever.
Well, I know where I'm going on my next trip.
Yeah, listen, there's
Big River to have a giant beer, and then I'm going there.
There's a roller coaster so old. I'm surprised they haven't demolished it and started over.
Is that roller coaster the reason you like horror movies? You like to be afraid?
Sure.
I just think, look, I'm not scared. Like, I'm not scared. I just don't love roller coasters either. Like, I'm not scared of stuff. I just don't love roller coasters.
Yeah, well, I like both, so.
I feel like you're judging me. Ashanti, thank you for coming on. Please tell everyone where they can find you and where they can find your wonderful podcast.
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm at the MTR Network. I co-host Docu Drunks and Scare Nostalgia. And you can hit me up on Twitter at Not That Ashanti. Like the opposite of the singer.
She can also be found under @Amani says I'm a goddamn menace, which turns up in my inbox as Armani says I'm a god, which I know that she appreciates. I don't think it doesn't really work for me.
Okay.
But I do appreciate you coming on again to record this podcast. That was your show. We'll be back later today with your quick snaps. This is your outro. See you guys next week.